recording. So Tim, if you would like to do the introductions, please, all yours now.
Boss, thank you very much. Good seeing you again. Hi, I'm Tim Muth. What you see in front of you here, this is a Florida Tech classroom. Today's actually a big day. Our first 2 weeks of the semester were all Zoom because of a lot of us traveled over the holidays. This is the first day for in-person classes. This class, I've got 36 students, and we got a whopping 6 showed up for in-person class. Probably the rest of them are someplace in Zoom land. But we're very excited to introduce our friends from Capsource Education that I've been working with Angel and Kush for well, probably several months on some different case competitions. We're actually doing a unique live competition with our school and a company they brought to us to work with. Very, very excited about. But with that, let me sort of welcome everybody in. Now looks like we've got about 122 folks around the world. And you know, what we're going to do is have Ankush introduce his team, talk about Capsource, and then I have a series of questions, but also we want to entertain the student questions. I need to know these are webinars that over the next week or so, each X-Culture team is going to pick which challenge company they want to work with. Then over the next 6 weeks, they're going to work on a challenge that they present, and Ankush will talk about the unique challenge they've got here, which I think will really excite you guys. Some may actually get involved with this program, which would be kind of neat. But maybe with that, Ankush, could you introduce yourself and then your team? Then we'll get started.
Definitely. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. I'm excited to kind of give a little bit of an overview of Capsource, introduce my team, and then allow you to ask any questions that you have. We're really excited about the challenge that we've posed for this competition, and we think that you know, we're really growing quickly, and being able to get perspective from you all is very important. The company Capsource actually does exactly what is happening at X-Culture. So we help connect universities with companies to form either in-person, in-class projects, or working to form kind of student internship teams for companies. And I'll go a little bit more into it. I have a little bit of a deck prepared for you, and hopefully that'll help answer some questions. And then I'll be happy to send that around afterwards as well. But before we move on, I lead up our industry partnerships team, and I helped co-found Capsource with my partner, Jordan. And on the phone today, I have Angel and John. Angel is an academic partnerships manager, and John is an industry partnerships manager. And I thought it would be good to kind of get them on the line as well, just so that in case you have any questions that pertain to what they do, they'll be able to answer those as well. So Angel, do you want to give a quick intro?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Angel, and like Ankush said, I'm an academic partnerships manager. I work closely with schools and students to design engagements for students. And I've been working closely with Tim on a couple of engagements, and I'm excited to be here.
Angel, where did you go to school at?
University of Maryland. Go Terps.
When'd you get out?
May 2019, and I studied information systems and business management. I was classmates with Ankush.
Oh, really? Okay. So this dude's only about 3 years, 3 years older than you guys are. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Angel. John, do you want to go next?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Like Ankush said, I work on the industry partnerships team, so I kind of am in charge in going out and helping find different companies and businesses to come in who are willing to work with students in classrooms on all different types of engagements, some more in a competition format and some other in more team-based projects. But I've been with the company about a year, and it's been a great time so far.
John, where did you go to school at?
We're all University of Maryland graduates. We were working together, and Ankush kind of started working with Capsource and founding it, and then we kind of hopped aboard not too long after.
Just curious, what was your major?
I was a finance and real estate development major.
Andrew, what was your major?
Me? My major was finance and innovation and entrepreneurship.
Angel, what was yours?
Information systems and business management.
Oh man, they're all business students too. All right, cool.
Awesome. Well, I want to kind of share this deck and also start with a quick story of how I got started with Capsource. So 1 second. Is there any way you can enable my screen sharing, please?
Boss, could you use screen share, or can I do it for him? Thanks for dressing up today, Coach. We appreciate it.
Tim, why are you always giving me a hard time?
Talk to my students sometime. That'd be nice to you.
Okay, let's see. 1 second. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, yep.
Okay, perfect.
And no worries about your hoodie, Silicon Valley culture, everything's okay.
That's the vibe I was trying to go for.
Yeah, I did dress up. I put on a shirt today, but yeah, normally no problem at all.
Okay, awesome. So I have this deck prepared. We don't have to go through all of it, but I figured it would help to provide a little bit of background and overview of kind of what we've been working on and what we're heading towards. So to give you some background on the company, over here you'll see it says Experiential Hiring Made Easy. Our slogan actually used to be Experiential Learning Made Easy, and we've kind of decided to take a little bit of a pivot more to the industry side. Traditionally, Capsource has focused a lot on the academic side of things, working with universities to help to build these projects directly into curriculum. And so now we're trying to figure out, how do we really monetize the company side of things? We've given this away to companies for almost 3 to 4 years now. And so being able to extract value from them as far as hiring goes and being able to solve resource constraints is really important. And so to start with my story of how I got started with Capsource, I actually went through the very first pilot engagement that Capsource did at the University of Maryland when I was a senior there a few years ago. And I had no idea this course would be so different than the traditional, lecture, exam kind of method. And so it was essentially a consulting course where they brought in this company, Hungry, and Hungry was paired with the course. The course was broken up into 3 or 4 different groups. There was about 30 or 40 students, and I was on the innovation team. So we had a particular project which we led class discussion on a weekly basis and worked through for this company, got to interact with their leadership, got to go to their offices, experience their products. And it was honestly really cool. I had never been through an engagement like that where you actually get to apply what you're learning as opposed to, just learning it and then hopefully going out and seeing what it's like in the real world. And so this really brought it into the classroom for me. And after the engagement ended, I actually connected with their CEO because he really liked some of the ideas my team presented. And I went and worked at Hungry for a little while after that to help them develop kind of a growth strategy. And that's how I discovered the world of startups. But it would have been really hard for me to do that had I not gone through this experience. And so that's when I really fell in love with Capsource and reached back out to my professor and said, well, how did this all come to fruition? Because I've been to classes for the last 4 years here and I've never been through something like this. So he connected me with Jordan, and I realized that that was the very first pilot that was going on for a Capsource engagement. And then the rest was history. That was almost 4 years ago, and we've been partners ever since, and it's been very exciting. So that was my story and how I got involved with Capsource. So let me kind of go into more of our model, what we're looking to do, what the challenge is, and how you all can kind of present some of those ideas. In terms of what we see as the problem, there's a major opportunity gap in internships, right? The only way for students or candidates to really experience and validate or invalidate what they want to do is to actually try it. And that's really hard to do if people don't have the opportunity to do so. So what we're trying to do is open up that opportunity gap and really provide the ability for students and candidates to experience these internships so they can make decisions on what they want to do in their life. And since, there's only 20 million kind of higher ed enrolled and, less than 2 million internships exist, that's a huge gap there. And that's what we're kind of trying to solve. And so our vision is really internships for all through the technology that we've developed to really help manage this. And so let me go into a little bit about the history of Capsource and how we got to the point we're at today. So we started off working on Google Docs, and we would essentially be matching companies with universities in terms of designing projects, matching companies that relate to the courses that are going on, and actually embedding those projects into the course for the professor to leverage theory plus experience in the course. And so in doing that, we started in Google Docs. We would design projects, work with schools, work with professors, really learn what they were trying to do in terms of being able to change their curriculum and provide more experience for the students in terms of applied learning. So as we started doing that, we realized it's really hard to go through and do this at scale. And we really needed a way to manage all of it. And we didn't think there was anything out there that helped to do that. So we decided to build something. And so we found a team of developers and we built out what we call Connect. And so Connect is essentially our software. It allows us to put up project requests, send them out to companies, solicit their interest. They respond with projects. We have a design team that helps to design those projects out. And then we kind of hand that off to either the company that's working with a team of students or to professors at the university to actually go through the project and mentor the students as they go through it. So that's more of the embedded into curriculum kind of method. And we call that a live case. So live cases, you can have 3 to 4 different groups of students and in one course, and they're kind of collaborating and working cross-functionally. So it's very interesting. And so as we started to do that, we had this platform built and we realized, wow, this is very interesting because people can actually start doing what we're doing on their own. And so universities started saying, hey, can we license that software and actually use it for our own purpose to create our own experiential learning center, have our own kind of hub where our students can go to look for experiential opportunities and allow our professors to kind of put requests out for companies to want to work with them. And there's this gap there where there's no real connection for industry and the academic side beyond, like the career center, but there's also obstacles over there. So being able to really connect to the academic side was how we started the business. And then, from there we realized that beyond the academic side, we were giving this away for free to companies. We would say it's free student consulting engagements that you can participate in. All you have to do is provide a project idea. And then we started realizing these companies started hiring the students that were going through the engagements. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So we started talking a little bit about experiential hiring. And so this is basically a try before you buy type of method. And so you can actually see the talent perform. You can evaluate them for culture fit. You can see how competent they are and if they would be a good match for the role. And so that's kind of what experiential hiring is all about. So it's a low cost way to go ahead and try out students by being able to see how they work, seeing how they interact, see what their deliverables are like, and see how they mesh with the team. And that's really important and something you can't really get out of a traditional interview. And so we now have this ecosystem of experiential hiring for companies and experiential learning for universities. And we've partnered with several universities over the last few years, and we've really been able to learn a lot of what they're looking for and then translate that over to understand what value can be derived for companies as well. Okay, so before I go into this flywheel, I'm going to pause for a second. Does anyone have any questions so far? I saw a few hands raised.
There is a question from one of our attendees that reads, so basically your team wishes to give high ed students the opportunity to enter an internship through a partnership with their respective universities. And I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but you probably do.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So this is something that we've struggled with a little bit, especially as we're building out the industry side of things. And so there's 2 pieces to this, right? So we want to be able to really create a marketplace. And the 2 main components are the academic side and the industry side. And then the secondary kind of component is the students and the candidates, because they're the ones actually consuming the information and going through these engagements. And so when you think about it, you really have to be able to provide opportunities for people to engage on our system on both the academic side and the industry side. So for the academic side, what we provide is the ability for them to create collaboration requests. It's essentially like an RFP, a request for proposal. They basically say, hey, I have this class I want a company to work with. Here's what the class is about. Here's what I want the project to kind of be like. And then companies can kind of come in and submit project ideas. And that's how we engage on the academic side. Our team helps to build those kind of into curriculum with our live cases. And then if schools want to provide just teams of students, since they have MBAs that need to go through capstones and things like that, we also have a capstone option, which is 1 to 6 kind of students. The live cases, I think 10 to 200 students. And so that's kind of the difference there. As far as the industry side is concerned, we're actually leveraging our student network that we've been able to build over the last 4 years. And we've created a method using case assessments, and I'll go into that in a second. But essentially, we form those student teams on our own using the data that we have on our students. And so we've actually, and that's what this project's going to be based on, we've actually tried to say, okay, we have these university partnerships. We can leverage those to find students for these engagements that companies want to do. And we basically form those teams and hand them off to the companies as intern teams. And then we provide kind of employability assessments and collect feedback along the way to be able to give back to the company. And so the real difference of what you're getting here is it's free for the company to engage with a university if there's currently a request out, but they don't have the ability to really customize the program to their liking, since it has to be aligned with the students' learning objectives. So we said, hey, if companies want to still do projects but not have the university involved and just get a team of students, we can actually make this highly custom for you, and we can provide you with teams of students, and you can provide the requirements you want, the compensation levels, whether you're going to hire them, things like that. So for example, John right now got a call from one of our clients and said, hey, we're looking to hire 5 more people. And he said, hey, can we do a competition? And so John is currently running a competition for MBA students for the purposes of them being hired after the competition's over. And so that's kind of one of the ways that we engage directly with companies. I hope that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. So you're basically sort of like a 3-sided platform. So you have companies, you have universities, and then you have students that are kind of almost, again, another constituencies, right? But then
Right,
there's all kinds of
exactly.
additional services and features that you have through that platform.
Right, exactly. And so I want to go over kind of this flywheel really quickly, because I think it helps to kind of bring the 3 sides together. So we start on the top right with building our academic partnerships, which we've been really able to do over the last few years. And these academic partners, once you have some really good names, right, you start attracting really innovative companies that want to engage with the students and with the universities just to improve their talent pipelines, alleviate resource constraints, get more interns, things like that. And so this program helps to maximize those internship results at the bottom right through the technology that we're providing, through the services that we're providing in terms of program design, supporting intern recruitment, evaluating that talent, and then providing reports to the companies to actually do something with it. So this, in the end of the day, produces desirable talent that's actually gone through the process already and understands their company. So instead of wasting a lot of money on training and onboarding, you're actually doing all of that while they're going through the engagement to a degree, so that they're actually trained and ready to go if you decide to make a hiring decision. And this brings us kind of to the top left, where we talk about monetizing our industry partners. So yes, we give them things that they can do for free, but now how can we start charging them? And that's kind of what this challenge is based on. In order to do that, back in March when COVID started, we figured, wow, we really need to do something to help with virtual internships. And that's when our virtual internship program was born. And our virtual internship program looks to really provide, creative solutions in case there's any resource constrained teams that want projects done. And then in the other piece of it is really looking at if we can hire those students afterwards. So understanding what their performance was like, understanding how their peers evaluated them, understanding what the company thought of them. And I think through doing all of those things, we're able to provide an experience where it's not too difficult for the companies to kind of get on board, since our team is helping to design these projects. And it's not too much of a lift to manage the students either, since they're pretty short engagements and you get to see a lot from them in that short amount of time, especially because you're curating what the deliverables will be, how the students will kind of go about attacking the problem, giving them kind of background on it, and then evaluating them throughout that process. And so our virtual internship program, we kind of soft launched back in March, and it didn't really take off since we were planning around it and COVID was happening. There was a lot of messy things going on with companies and universities. But since then, we've really been able to push this idea of experiential hiring. And there's an article I kind of wrote about it, but to explain kind of this graphic, we go through a 3 kind of process method where you engage, assess, and integrate. So you're engaging the candidates through case-based, project-based, and team-based challenges. And then you're assessing soft skills, technical skills, and culture fit through those projects. And then you can integrate either the outcomes or the talent. So the outcomes are the strategic solutions and the creative ideas. The talent is qualified and productive, ready to go. They understand what's going on, and they've kind of been integrated to your team to a degree. I'll pause again here. Do we have any more questions?
We do have a few, but not related directly to what you're talking about. So I'll hold those until the end of the meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. So next I want to talk about kind of our 2 methods, and then I'll come back to that slide. So here are the formats that we've introduced for our virtual internship program offering. And there's this collaboration piece of it, and then there's competition. So collaboration is if a company knows exactly the problem they have, they want a group of students to come in, work on it, be done with it, provide a recommendation. We can set that up for you. We can design the project. We charge $24.95 per team. And if you have kind of multiple teams that you want, we can scale that price down. But that's kind of the price for a collaboration engagement. So it's a team of interns you're getting to work on one specific problem. And then we have the competition format. So the competition format is actually designed to foster more teams being able to participate. And it's very similar to what we're kind of going through here. And so essentially it's several teams that compete to come up with the best ideas to the challenge. And so these challenges are usually more broad and less specific, like the collaboration ones would be. And for this, we charge $9.95 per team. And the difference in price is there because when we're designing projects for a competition versus a collaboration, we only need to design one project for the competition. So our design team doesn't really have to get too bogged down there. But for collaboration, we have to work with each of the departments you want to set up a team for and design different projects there, and then recruit different types of students as well for those different projects. And so it's a little bit more cumbersome on that side. And that's why it's a little bit higher of a price. And I think being able to assess the teams and put them together is really done through our case assessments. And so essentially we have these old projects in the system, and then we also work with companies to come up with new case assessments. And essentially instead of looking at the GPA of a student or looking at the resume, we want to actually see how you work. So our method involves sending out these case assessments to students that apply to opportunities. And if our team kind of decides that those case assessments are acceptable, we have a method to evaluate them and provide kind of feedback back to the companies. They help to determine who they'd like to move forward with. And so we take care of kind of the initial interviewing plus the case assessment review. And then the company comes in for the final round interviews, essentially. And those are usually dwindled down by our team to a certain number of people that they would like to kind of work with. And that's how we get the teams formed. And that's kind of our method using this case assessment. And that's really important because I think part of the reason, going back to the opportunity gap that I discussed earlier, part of the reason that exists is because a lot of companies actually just go look at someone's GPA and screen them out right away. And that kind of sucks, right? I mean, I don't think I would have gotten the opportunity that I did had I not gone through an engagement like this. And if someone just looked at my resume, it's just like anybody else, right? How do you differentiate yourself? And so through doing all of this, we're really helping candidates build out profiles of going beyond just the resume line item, going beyond the GPA requirement. And that's how we kind of get these teams formed. Here's an example of a virtual engagement where we have kind of the director of sales and marketing working with this team of students, and they kind of worked remotely to come up with the go-to-market strategy. And so wanted to provide that example there. Here we kind of talk about what the virtual internship program is. I talked a little bit about things you can customize. They're listed here for you to review and be able to dive into a little bit deeper. Talked about the formats. And then in terms of what companies can kind of do for free, and this goes back to the freemium model that we kind of talked about a second ago, we need to allow people to engage on our platform. And whether that be through paid things or free things, acquiring the customers and bringing them onto the platform is really important. And so that's why the freemium part of it needs to exist. And in terms of what they'll be able to do from a freemium perspective, engage with class projects. So going back to the RFPs that I was talking about, the collaboration requests, they're essentially working with those courses through proposing projects to their RFPs. And then we have open cases / case assessments. And so this is basically a way for companies to say, hey, let's put something out there. If students apply and submit something really great, we'll be able to look at it. And for this, we basically limit, like, if you have 10 submissions and some of them are really good, in order to kind of keep receiving more, you have to subscribe. And so those are kind of our 2 free options that we provide. And then I wanted to also provide an example of some competitors and where we see ourselves kind of fitting in. Towards the left, it's more of a marketplace thing and being able to kind of find opportunities and have people kind of connect in a marketplace environment. To the right is more enterprise software. So your Blackboards of the world and your greenhouses of the world. And I'm sure you'll do some research and find more information on these companies. But the top and bottom, we see experiential learning, experiential hiring, and Capsource really we see sitting in the middle because we're able to be at the intersection of providing the marketplace, the learning, the hiring, and the enterprise software experience. And so through the combination of all that, I think we're providing a powerful solution for not only candidates, but also companies to find and retain the best talent. Okay, so here's some stats on some of the people we've worked with, and I want to pass it back off to you all now for any questions.
Yeah, there is one question that is kind of related to what you were talking about. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we have quite a few high school students participating in Sculpture now. And so one of them is asking if your platform could be used by high schools as well, or is it only for universities?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually piloted a high school initiative this past summer, but we had a lot of difficulties with it just because companies find that they have this perception that, oh, like college students should be interns, but not high school students. I completely disagree because we actually had a competition where we had a high school compete and they actually beat out all of the undergraduate teams. And that was just absolutely crazy for us to see and the kind of school to see. And so to answer your question, yes, it can be used for high school students as well. We haven't seen as much traction on that end yet.
Yeah, last semester in Xculture, we had a total of about 1,000 teams. And of those, there were some teenagers. And in the final showdown, so to speak, so we had, I believe, 7 best teams invited to do the final presentations. And the high schoolers actually got the highest popular vote. So maybe they got a little credit for being a little younger, but so about 200 people voting on the quality of presentation, and they got actually the highest score.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things where if you're able to provide perspective and really articulate yourself in a way that you can understand the challenge and then provide a solution, it doesn't matter really what level you're at. It's just how innovative you are in it and how you can communicate that solution, I think. Awesome. Do we have any more questions?
There is another question from Chris Anthony. Is there any competitors that you believe stands out of those listed? Basically, who's your biggest competitor that you're most, admire or are afraid of?
Yeah, so Ripen is probably one of our biggest competitors. And they essentially are more so on that marketplace front. They've been kind of doing this. They've had almost I think 2 or 3 year head start on us, and they've actually developed out their marketplace. But what makes us different is really the enterprise approach. And so I'll go a little bit more into our Connect platform now that you asked the question, but essentially being able to white label our platform and provide your own kind of homepage experience, like own company network, own network of requests, but also the fact that those requests and things can get pushed to Capsource's main platform so that everyone can see it for wider reach is really important. And so really combining the experiential learning with the hiring through the marketplace and enterprise approach is what makes us different. But I'd say Ripen, Parker Dewey, EduSourced are key competitors on at least the experiential learning side. And now that we've entered the hiring side as well, looking at companies like Jazz HR and Handshake, right? One of the things we've heard a lot of people say about Handshake is they provide all the opportunities, but there's no way to really tell anything about the candidate beyond that the opportunity that's posted in the application that comes in. And so being able to really evaluate and assess the talent at the same time is also very important. So that's how we're trying to differentiate there.
Hey, Ankush, this is Tim. We have Handshake at our career management services office. Let me ask some of the students here. Does anybody use that? How does it work? Logan?
Yeah, so Handshake, like you said, it's mainly just the when you get the papers from the student, it doesn't really go in depth about what they can do and can't do. We use it at Larson Motorsports as a hiring thing, but we always go in and interview after getting the internship opportunities from Handshake.
So it's more like a job posting?
Yeah.
So students see that and apply to it.
Yeah.
I got not much training.
Nice. And so I think one thing I want to kind of go into now, what does the future of this look like, right? Essentially, by going through and making these teams of students and having, Angel and John run these competitions and these collaborations, that's all great, but it goes back to a services-rooted approach, which I think we're trying to move away from. And so I think that the services will always be a part of our business. But as we kind of transition to more of being a product-centric company and focusing on our Connect platform and marketplace, that's where really the future is at. And so we've been really working hard to develop this platform where you essentially have the marketplace and you have those free options. Hold on, let me pull up another slide. Sorry. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this basically goes over the different things that people can do at like a free premium and enterprise level. And so the reason I bring this up is I think it's important to understand how we're trying to position this for the future as far as Connect is concerned. And so being able to really work with HR departments, understand what companies want, that's why John, Angel, and I are really doing the service thing right now, right? Because we want to understand how this will work. How can we productize this for you? How can we make internships better, more scalable, easy to make, manage, and facilitate? And so by doing that research, we communicate regularly with our product team on how we see the future of the Connect platform going because of what we're hearing and seeing from our clients. And so through this feedback loop that we've built, we're able to see that HR people are really the ones that would interact with us. And even beyond that, they would have to interact with different departments and understand the needs from different departments, not only hiring, because they already know that, right? So that's one opportunity in order to find kind of ways to engage students is you have open hiring goals that you need to match. The other is if departments are resource constrained and they have a project in the marketing department or the finance department and they want students to kind of help on that because the team just doesn't have time and it hasn't been prioritized. And so those are the two kind of avenues, right? But how do you take out kind of the person from that and really have the platform be able to facilitate a lot of this? And so what we're thinking is actually integrating job boards from companies into the platform so that their HR people can actually just create like listings to attract students to work on engagements and say, oh, I have a digital marketing position open. Let's go find 2 teams or 3 teams of students, one from FIT, one from Notre Dame, and basically have them kind of work through this project and see kind of what they come up with. And then we'll either hire the best ones or give them internships or like full-time internships afterwards or something like that, right? And that really allows them to be able to work with both the departments and fill hiring needs. So connecting the job board platform, being able to evaluate the students and see all the engagements they've done. So a very comprehensive profile with a rating system, things like that. And that's kind of the thing that we're pushing towards. And I say all of that because this project is really geared around understanding our virtual internship program and the value it's providing to companies and how to productize that value in a way that isn't stressful and strenuous on our team, but also effective isn't enough that it works for the company and the candidates. And so through kind of the different collaborations and competitions that we've kind of put on so far, we're able to learn a lot of these things. And I think we really need to understand more around what the companies really want, how this would work for them. How does this work in different geographical locations, right? We have so many people globally that are listening into this call. And so being able to understand the different niches and localization preferences of people and companies. So looking at the candidates, what they're looking for, how they're applying to jobs in India might be a lot different than how they're applying to jobs here and the things that are going through in the recruitment process. How do you use some of the things that are coming out of this to actually inform hiring decisions? Is it completely supplementary to the interview process? Is it complementary to the interview process? Can you use some of the hiring and assessment reports that we provide to be able to make any of those decisions? How do you indicate hiring preference and what does that look like? So we've kind of put on, I think, 5 different collaborations so far with 4 or 5 different companies, and then a few different competitions. So we ran one with DoorDash with about 200 students. We ran one with Ronald McDonald House Charities. And now we have another one coming up with CoinSource. And so these competitions, really provide us with the student network to market these opportunities to, as far as the other collaborations and stuff go. So that's how we really try and work that side of the company. And that's our vision for it. And being able to have that marketplace, have the job board integration, have the ability for companies to say, hey, we want Capsource's help. So let's also stick with, somewhat of a services approach, because I know that designing these projects isn't easy. I know it's going to be a huge change management lift to be able to go to the companies and say, hey, let's figure out how to reach out to different departments. Hey, let's figure out how to design different projects and make sure that they're effective in what you're trying to get out of it. I know I just spoke a lot, so I'll stop for a second.
There is a question here is your software available for all platforms, mobile, web app, desktop app, etc.?
Yes.
Okay. And now
so we don't have an app on the App Store. It's a web-based app.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as we look into the future, that's definitely something we've considered, because I think students and candidates and the younger generation just in general is so tied to their phones and applications. So being able to find these different opportunities and apply to them directly on an app would be great. So we have thought about that as well.
And now there is a very interesting question from Saif Bali that I think we need to answer together with you. So Saif is asking, what's the difference between X-Culture and Capsource? And so let me try to answer that. Tell me if I get that right. So the similarity definitely is in both organizations, both programs allow students to sort of gain experience by working with real companies. The difference is that X-Culture, one, is not a business. So Capsource is designed as a business. X-Culture, it's more collaboration of professors. Second, X-Culture is more about international collaboration and international experience. So our students work in international teams where each team member is from a different country. And so one of the main sort of added values is that our students sort of by completing the project for the company, they also work with people from different countries and learn the challenges and best practices of working with people from different cultures, different time zones, things like that. Your teams are usually co-located, I assume, right? So students are from the same country?
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of one of the things that's also changed with the industry side, right? As we've been kind of putting the teams together ourselves, there's times where there's students from other schools, students from other countries. One of our internships we did had, I think, two students from India, two students that were here in the U.S., one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and so it really just depends on the types of applicants we get and things like that. But as far as the difference is concerned, I think you kind of hit it on the head, right? We're trying to provide more of a software solution now through our learnings
Yes, that's
to be
very
able to
important.
help facilitate these things.
That's very important. So you do have your software, you have the platform, because Experiential
Right.
deliberately, we don't have any software. And so we literally teach our students how to use Dropbox, Google Docs, available free tools. So we don't have our own platform. And in that sense, we're not an IT company by any measure. Whereas Capsource,
And
you
I
guys
to
are,
kind of clarify one of the points you made, right? Like, we don't have any like Dropbox or anything like that within our platform. Like, that stuff we encourage students and companies to kind of figure out on their own based on what people like to use. What our software does do, though, is provide you with the ability to design out these projects in an easy way and then manage and track them. So has the student submitted a deliverable? No. Well, that impacts the health score, and the professor will get an email saying, oh, this deliverable is missing, the health of this project is in jeopardy, type of thing, right? So being able to manage all of that. And then same on the company side, how do I look at all the things that people have done for me? Where's my deliverable library? How do I look at all the students that have engaged with me, and how do I tell them, oh, I want to hire you now? So I think being able to really facilitate that process as opposed to being a project management tool is an important distinction I'd like to draw.
that's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. There's another, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
And Kush, can we mention company names that you work with?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to use it, you can stop me if I'm going someplace that's confidential, but our school competed in a competition that Capsource was running with a company called CoinSource.
Yes.
It was a up and coming Bitcoin company, which I could never figure out, but my students were really excited about working with them. And the competition ran about 6 weeks. They had several meetings with the company executives, or like a call just like this, where they got to interact with them, ask questions. And then at the end, the students got to present via Zoom to a panel of about 10 judges and got some very detailed feedback. The winning team ended up getting virtual internships with the company, which my students finished second, so they were kind of bummed out because they heard about the internships. But this other school, all 4 students got placed in virtual internship. And the company was so pleased with what happened. And just help me here, English. My understanding is they've now come back with another challenge, but it's very, very focused. That only the best of the best students can even get involved with it, because the company wants to hire folks as they grow their Bitcoin business. Maybe you can talk about that part, how it
Yeah.
develops.
John, do you want to touch on that? John is running that competition, actually. Are you still with us?
He's muted right now.
I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, we're running another competition this spring. Applications are still open till I think February 26th, and it'll be kicked off in March, and it'll run till the end, till May 1st is when kind of the final winners will be announced and the prizes will be distributed.
Hey, John, is that open to any student, any college student, or is it only particular universities?
Any college student in all universities it's open to. So open to apply, no guarantee that you get accepted, but
Right.
I'm sure that yeah, there's still plenty of spaces open. So if students still want to apply or put a team together, I'd encourage you guys or anyone who thinks they're interested in doing that to do so. And I can send the link after this call to whoever's interested.
Yeah, if you send it to me, I'll get it up. But John, what was CoinSource's motivation to come back a second time?
Yeah, so they've seen a lot of, they were really happy with the students they got from the last competition. And they're hoping to continually grow through this coming year. The cryptocurrency space, I think, has been, seen a lot of growth since their last competition, and so have they. So they're launching a new product. This is going to be a digital banking product, and they're hoping to kind of provide access to people who traditionally maybe don't have banks or want like another alternative route to traditional banking using kind of cryptocurrency and blockchain. So they want to figure out how to kind of develop a go-to-market strategy and growth strategy and marketing strategy for that a new product that they're going to be rolling out. And it'll be really cool because the students will be signing NDAs. They'll get access to a lot of like proprietary kind of confidential information that CoinSource thinks is going to be a really disruptive product. So really kind of cutting edge stuff. And I think it'd be a great experience for kind of any student to get involved with.
And they want to hire the top performers, so it can't get much better than that.
Guys, so in the we have only a little time left. So the big question then for the students is, how exactly can they offer value to you? So what exactly would you like them to sort of focus on? Because essentially, I'm not sure how many students will choose Capsource as the client, but let's say there will be 500 students or so working on your challenge. We see the questions, but ultimately, what can they do so that at the end you look at whatever they provide and you say, whoa, this is very useful. I really liked it. So what are the things that students should be doing to make you happy?
I think one of the things that we really need to understand and hone in on is, what do companies want and what are they looking for in terms of interns? And so some companies have big internship programs that they already run. Some companies have kind of small scaled internship programs, but it's kind of disorganized and not really centralized. So being able to understand, like, how can we communicate the value of this? And I've been talking to a lot of people in HR, understanding kind of what their needs are and how they see this fitting in. And so I think understanding from a local perspective, what is it that companies want? How do companies want to engage with students? Are they willing to do this? And by looking, I mean, I really want the team to be able to look at our existing products. So our VIP collaborations and competitions, the ones that we've put on, look at the results of those, look at the deliverables, look at what went well and what didn't go so well, and be able to provide some type of perspective on, hey, your program should also be doing this because companies really want it. Or, hey, we don't know why you're doing this. Companies don't really care about this. So understanding what really our virtual internship program should shape into, especially considering some of the things that I mentioned that we should be doing for the future as far as our Connect platform is concerned. Let me give actually one more example before we hop off here. So we were talking with a venture client, and they basically wanted to use, well, they source like from internally from their company different projects, and then they go to schools and say, hey, do you want to work with our students on these projects? And I mean, with our company departments on these projects, can you provide student teams? And so they came to us and said, can we repurpose your Connect platform for the company side? And can you make it so that we can actually intake projects from our departments and then propose those to schools, as opposed to how we're doing it, which is like having schools propose projects and then going to companies. And so they had an internal team that they built to do this, and they wanted to license our software to do the opposite of what we were doing, which is great, right? But that's the point we have to get companies to. Right now, I'm talking with them and being like, hey, let's try this. Let's input this. Let's try this for free. Let's do this engagement. Let's see if this works for you from a collaboration or a competition. And now we're getting to that point where, Tim, you and I have talked with True Religion about 5 or 6 times now. And every time we have a project request for them, their VP of HR is able to go to different VPs of different departments and just find the projects for us. But like, she wouldn't have just been able to do that, right? I had to kind of walk her through that, be able to show her the process of, here's how you should reach out, here are the types of things you should ask for. And then she's able to, I think, do 5 projects with us we're running. And we just introed with her like 5 weeks ago, I think. And so that's pretty amazing that they're able to do that. But in order to get to that level, you have to really be bought into the process, so to speak. So being able to understand the value that you're deriving out of it, but then also being able to work with us to design the projects in a way that's effective, and then providing really something valuable for students to work on. And I think that through providing these initial kind of engagements to companies through VIPs, we'll be able to get people up to that client's level where they just have so many projects from internal departments that they actually are bursting at the seams to go work with schools and find students to work on them. And so embedding that within the culture at companies, I think, is our ultimate goal, but we have a long way to go till we get there.
Guys, there is a
Gosh,
question.
I think another side of this though is also from the university side, that not every professor, not every university is going to do something like this. So I think the students as part of this project can also evaluate universities, maybe in different parts of the world or different mindsets, who's most likely to want to participate and would bring the right kind of students. I mean, I just think about within our school that there's a certain group of students that like this kind of stuff and other ones that aren't about the touch. Same thing with professors. So you need to have two willing parties. You got to get the company that's got the interesting challenge, but you also have the university that can deliver some value. You know, it's not just a project and you get a grade for it. Here's a company that's expecting some high quality work that you know is going to use what you give them. They hire you based on that. It's you know well beyond the normal kind of project that you would see.
Right. And I think the university side of it is definitely important in providing like mentorship and guidance and being able to help with resources for these engagements. And I think those are sometimes the teams that do really well because they are backed by outside perspective and a mentor or a professor. And I think that's a really important component of it. And one that we don't get when we kind of form the student teams on our own. And we've found that that's, you know, a challenge, and we have to work harder to design the projects in a way that they're very cohesive because there's no professor kind of helping to interpret what's there. It's the students that are working directly with the company. And so that's one thing that I think is important to note there.
There is also a question from Chris and then kind of a follow-up question from a different student, but essentially he's asking, so how do you find and select your companies? Chris is asking, are you only working with the companies that you listed? I assume you work with more companies, but then how do you find them essentially?
Yeah, that's a good question. So essentially, we have built up a network of companies over the last 3 or 4 years since we were essentially giving this away to companies for free. And so we were able to get a lot of excitement and engagement from that side. And so we have an existing network of companies. And then we also have a team that works to find kind of companies and people on different social media platforms and different avenues online and reach out to them to actually engage with some of these free school engagements. But then also we're starting to really push some of our internship stuff now. And so we have a team that works to find the companies that match kind of the requirements that are given. And now we're working to really find out if we can sell other things to these companies that have been given things for free for the last 3 to 4 years.
And is there a particular kind of company to find benefits more? I mean, the ones I've been involved with you guys have been, I'd say, early stage, very entrepreneurial companies, as opposed to Fortune 500 been around for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing too, right? Like some of the Fortune 500s are just so big that it's hard with all the bureaucracy to institute changes of this magnitude. But like being able to work with a little bit of smaller companies and they have a little bit more flexibility. And I think like finding a champion that is willing to take this on and lead it is really important. And so that's what allows us to get into like the bigger companies. And then looking at like more startups and mid-sized businesses are also more willing to do this.
Same experience with Xculture. So we worked with some really big companies. And the problem there is one, the top managers tend to be very busy. Second, even when good ideas come from our students, it takes sometimes years literally to implement them if they're lucky to go through all the bureaucracy. So whereas when we work with smaller companies, in many cases, there is much more interest from the company. And often you see the change literally sometimes even before the project is over. So we had companies that literally changed their names or added new products or added new features to their products literally in response to the ideas that students provided right here, right now. There is an interesting question from Talita Perry. And so again, maybe we need to discuss or answer it together. So she's saying if Xculture and Capsource are doing a similar thing, so why do you sort of work together? Shouldn't we be competitors? And my philosophy here is that Xculture, as I said, it's not a business. We don't really compete for some revenue or market share. And so when I see a company on a similar mission or on the same mission of allowing students to gain practical experience so that they become better employees, business owners, founders. I see that as almost my obligation to help each other. And so when we learned about Capsource and when we've heard that they would like to use our students to maybe get some ideas, by all means, of course. Second, many of our students and professors are always looking for additional projects. So they go through X-Culture, they like it, and they would like to do something more of the same kind. And so my hope is that many of our students or professors or universities will then learn about Capsource and say, hey, maybe we should do that one as well. Like, for example, Professor Muth here, so he participates in X-Culture, has been for what, like 10 years, but then he's been participating with his students in Capsource for a long time, and it's not a problem, it's a complementation. So I don't see that as a competition, it's more of a essentially collaboration. I don't know, what's your take of this, John, Angel, Ankush?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's very interesting, the parallels that I draw from Capsource and X-Culture. And in the end of the day, regardless of whether we're doing the same thing, I think being able to collaborate and work together in order to make these things better, so whether it be competitions or whether it be the experience, I think that we definitely say that we like to eat our own dog food. And so we're going to participate in these just like we help other people to participate. And, you know, we're no better than other companies, and being able to get your perspectives, being able to get your insights, and being able to show you kind of what we've done and understand what you think about it is really important for us as well. And so we really believe strongly in that.
Hey, boss, something, you know, I use X-Culture in my international business class.
Yeah.
I used Capsource in other classes that I teach.
That's a very good point. Yeah, almost all participants in X-Culture would be in international business, cross-cultural management, international marketing courses, and they come to us specifically for that international component. We do get a lot of inquiries from professors who teach, for example, entrepreneurship or strategy. And so they don't care about this international component. They need a practical experience that perhaps would be kind of monocultural. And so in that case, perhaps Capsource would be a better destination. So there is another question, and this one is more for X-Culture, but I don't know, maybe you guys can offer something of that kind as well. So Ali Navar is asking, so he has an idea for an app, and so he basically wants to start his business, and he wants, asks if we can help. And so this time at X-Culture, we don't help with that, but in 2021, this year, if everything goes fine, we should be launching what we call the MVP prize competition, so minimum viable product competition. I've been thinking about that for years and years, and hopefully finally we'll try it this semester. And so what that one is, it's designed essentially students who have ideas and want to start businesses. We want to help them. And so it will be like a collaborative competition of ideas. But unlike, for example, Shark Tank, where you come with the idea and the best ideas get investments or funding, in our case, it would be a multi-level competition, collaboration, where the original ideas will be changed many times, developed, improved. Maybe the co-founders will change teams. And so the goal is here that through this process, you will improve your own business plan, so to speak. And then again, the plan is in the end, one best or maybe a couple of best companies will get enough money to build the minimum viable product. Like, for example, here, Ali, not Ali, what was the name here? Ali, yes. Ali, you say you want to build an app. And so I assume you don't really need too much money to build the prototype. And so we may be able to help you with that, help you also with the connections. You mentioned factories, and we've had a bunch of factories participating in X-Culture. In fact, there is one manufacturer of toys this semester. So we will then try to maybe help you with this. And we're still not sure if it's going to be like a self-standing project or will it be designed specifically for entrepreneurship classes. But there might be something like that for you starting later this year. But I'm not sure, Capsource, do you guys help with business, you know, launching businesses, kind of business incubator, accelerated type of deal, or it's not exactly what you do?
Yeah, it really depends, right? Like if you have like an idea and you need some research done on it, or you need like a team of developers or something, we're not necessarily able to go like staff a team for you, but we can put on an engagement where students kind of work through things and provide you with deliverables, and you can choose to hire them afterwards. But I think what you kind of mentioned is more along the lines of the MVP competition that you were talking about.
And yeah, again, it's slightly different from what we normally do, but then again, we do have many instances when companies either offer internships or jobs to the best students. Again, if you have an interest in the app, and maybe if you work on a challenge from a company that might be interested in that app and might be interested in working with you, who knows, maybe that will work out naturally. But at this time,
Yeah.
that's not the main sort of offering, so to speak.
Yeah. And I see another interesting question here. If we keep track of the participants who didn't win and rank them to create a database for the companies. So we don't do that yet, but that's kind of the plan with what I was talking about as far as the student profile is concerned and having a rating system. So being able to understand who are the top performers here and why are they the top performers, being able to identify kind of skills that you know and skills that you want to learn, and being able to really understand how the students are performing and have a way to kind of database them and reach back into it when needed. And so that is one of the things that we're kind of thinking about is how do you provide that database of students, and can you charge for that database of students? Can that be a feature that's kind of turned on or off? So we are talking about that as well. Great question.
Yeah, that's again something I recommend you guys do. At this time, we have about 40,000 former participants of XCulture on the newsletter list. So people who proactively signed up to stay in touch. And then for some reason, we have 250,000 followers on Facebook, and we didn't have that many participants. So I assume now just some random people joined the page, which is fine. We're okay with that. But often we do get a lot of good interest and ideas and leads from those groups. And so again, obviously not all former participants stay in touch. Many would like to stay, but then get busy with their jobs and families and whatnot. So, but many stay quite for a long time. And so sometimes even, contact us years later, sometimes with an idea, sometimes, in fact, we've had a few companies that now were founded by our graduates, and now they participate as clients essentially. And so that's also interesting. So to stay in touch. And we even had a couple of students last 2 years ago who got married. So they met through XCulture, they were on the same team. And then they were invited to the XCulture Symposium in Italy. Did you, Tim, know that? In Italy, in Macerata? So he proposed, she accepted, and they had a wedding shortly after. So I got a note from the professor after the symposium, like a few months later, and she said, "Did you know that we had?" They should have told us. I mean, we would have had a bigger celebration, but I guess they were. So he's from Italy, she's from the United States, but apparently now they live somewhere in Pakistan because he or she or both of them got some sort of a job with an international company. And because both of them had this international experience, they were basically sent as expatriates to a third country. So, but yeah, why not? I mean, many people become friends and, stay in touch for a long time. So, and in Canada.
Two quick XCulture questions. How likely does Singapore look this summer?
So we actually had a meeting with Gordon earlier, literally like a week, 2 weeks ago. So we are still not sure when travel will be allowed. And so we still hope that we will be able to go to Singapore. But if you don't, those who don't know, so we actually, if you've seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians, so we booked the place where the wedding was taking place for our opening reception. And then we've had almost like a year now back and forth trying to get the deposit back because we cannot come on time. And so they said, we'll just keep it open for you. And whenever you're ready, we'll just keep it for you. But now they actually said, you know what, yes, it looks very uncertain. So maybe it will not even be possible to do it this year. We don't know what Singaporean rules will be, even if you're welcome, if you're willing to travel, if the, vaccine kind of makes pandemic not as serious. We are not sure if Singapore will even allow you to come into the country. So now they decided to issue us a refund, but we are still looking at Singapore. And then we also have several different countries on the list. So Washington, DC is interested in hosting the event. Grenada is still interested in hosting the event. And then we're still looking at the option of going to Miami, boarding a cruise ship. So having some meetings in Miami with the companies, then cruise ship somewhere to Bahamas or Cozumel or something like that. And then back similar to what we did in 2016. So we'll see. At this time, it's very hard to make any predictions. So it's likely going to be 2022.
Well, boss, with the current students that passed the readiness test, do they get their teammates today?
Yes. So we will literally be sending out the team assignments within the next few hours. So those of you students who are in the early track, as long as you passed the test, and it looks like we have over 1,000 students who already passed the test. So the teams will be formed today. You will receive an email with the names of your team members. And then first you contact each other by email, but then you can create a group WhatsApp, I don't know, Slack, Facebook group, whatever works for you, or can stick with email. We just finished a study where we looked at why some teams do better than others. And one thing that stands out is that teams that have face-to-face meetings with video, like what we have now, they do better. It's not entirely sure, we're not entirely sure what is the cause and what is the effect. Maybe better teams just want to have video conferences, but it seems like those that do have video conferences perform better. So I strongly recommend that you have at least a few of these meetings so that you can, see each other's faces, so to speak. So I recommend once you get those emails, do connect on video and talk to one another.
Yeah, I wanted to step in. I saw another question come in and then I have to hop since I'm late for another meeting. But speaking of data analytics, do you have a service that kind of helps students to increase their chances by giving them tips, mentoring, things like that? That's a really great question. And so I think that that's something we're working towards on the student side. So our focus for 2021, 2022 is moving away from how do you provide more value to the academic side, and it's really how do you provide more value by really looking at the students and companies. And so that's where we're shifting our focus to. So being able to provide tips, being able to provide like, hey, you should do kind of this training or watch this resource or video. And we think that this will help you. Maybe having a mentor service is another added thing we can do, right? So we're definitely open to considering all of those things.
There is also a question, and I think it would be interesting for both companies, is your degree accredited from an American university? So no, the degrees, we are not a university, we don't offer diplomas. But I'm curious what Capsource offers in the end. So at XCulture, we give you a certificate, and we'll also send you a very detailed recommendation letter that explains what you did, what kind of experiences you gained. So something that you can use when you're applying for jobs, for example, or for scholarships. What do you offer at the end? Like what kind of paperwork
Yeah, we also provide kind of a similar kind of certificate graphic that can be used on social media, things like that. So in addition to that, we also have our 360 feedback surveys, which students kind of take and evaluate each other to be able to provide that employability report in the end. Another great question from Christina, does Capsource do internship programs for non-students? So people that were in one industry and moving to another industry. It's a good question. And we've internally battled with calling people students or candidates, because especially as we're moving more into the industry side. And I think that's very fair, right? Like that's exactly what these are designed to do. If you don't have experience in an industry, like you've never been in banking or finance and you want to figure out how to do that, you're able to get that experience through a very low risk method and show that you have interest or willingness to learn in that area. And so 100% possible for cross industry movement. Especially as you're considering whether or not to whether you like or don't like a certain industry or job or role and things like that.
Yeah. With XCulture, originally we also worked only with universities, but then friends of the former students started learning about XCulture, and we started getting too many inquiries. Can I participate individually? And at some point we just said, sure, why not? And so we call those people professionals. Again, we didn't know the name. Like, should it be trainee, student, professional, candidate? So, but yeah, so it's possible to enroll individually, not through a university. Right.
Nice. Well, I really have to hop, guys. I had an awesome time kind of talking through all this. I know it was a lot of information. So if you all get any questions that you want to kind of put together and email over to Angel, John, and I will be happy to answer them in the next webinar or send over email responses. But definitely take a look at our website, take a look at kind of what the previous engagements that we did. John typed his email into the chat, and so definitely let us know if you have any questions. But this was really exciting, and I'm looking forward to continuing.
Thanks, Ankush. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for setting up this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.